Programming in C# and ASP.NET. This is Mr. Wilson, your instructor and guide as we take a closer look at C# and ASP.NET. CS ASP 017 Calendar Blackout. Let's go to Visual Studios. Hey gang, so programmers, we're looking now, if you notice on the screen, from the little project that we had in 016. This is 2 calendars on the page, and I've named one. The first one, of course, was my calendar. The second one I have named my second calendar, okay? And other than that, pretty much this is very similar to what we did before. If you remember, I did some in XAML. I went in here and I added the selection mode single date and selected dates change, just like I did to our other calendar from the last video. So if it's been a while since you watched that, or if you're doing this right now, make sure you stop me so that you make the changes to your XAML so it looks like mine, so that both your calendars will do what mine does, okay? All right, so let's go back over here to our main window, and remember we had created this to be able to go and result label.content, and that's okay, but we want to talk about doing something else with this. I'm going to take that out right now. Okay, here's what we want to do. Right now, what we've done most of the time is we've instantiated variables on a very low scale, and that's just inside of our button click most of the time, and just one button click, and that was it. And we haven't used any methods before. Methods are a call to another piece of code, and that's what makes this kind of programming in C# very, very powerful, is we can have pieces of code that are modularized. They're in individual pieces so that we can access them, okay? And so one of the things I want to do is I want to be able to access some other code, okay? And so here's how I'm going to do that. I want to come up here, and the first thing that I'm going to do is, let's say, let's see, there's get my first date. I'm going to say / instantiate to date, time, variables. Objects is probably a better term. Okay, so I'm going to come in here and I want to say, and the reason why I'm doing them up here right below my main window is because I want to be able to use these in any part of my program, okay? And so I want to make them general variables to be able to use anywhere. So the first thing I've got to do is I've got to make it so that I can get to them. So I'm going to say public. That means I can use it anywhere in my program. And I'm going to say public, and I want a date time. Do you remember us doing that, I hope? Date time. And I'm going to create 2 of them. I'm going to say the first one I'm going to call my first date. Okay? And then I'm going to put a comma, and I'm going to create another variable called my second date. Okay. And now I have two date time variables, my first date, my second date. They are outside of my events, so I'll be able to access them anywhere in this main window. Okay. Now I'm going to come down here, and I had originally called this private void. I'm going to change that. I'm going to change that to public, because I'm going to want to be able to access things that I do in here. Okay. And so the first thing that I want to do is I want to get what I clicked on over in the main part of the program. Okay, that's what I'm going to get. So I want to do a couple things. I want to be able to do, and what we're going to do in here is we're going to basically create a blackout. We're going to create an area on the calendar that is blacked out. Okay, that's what kind of my goal is. So I want to, since I'm going to get two dates, let's go back over here. Let's go to the design. I'm going to get two dates, and I'm going to black out in this calendar my second date calendar. So I think what I'm going to use is I'm going to use a button to cause it to do that. So let me grab a button, and I'm just going to drop it over here, and I'm going to call that button, I'm just going to say push me. Okay. And so now I've got that button. Maybe I'm going to make it a little bit bigger just so that it's easier to read. Okay. And so let's go back to our, well, let's just go ahead and double click that. Okay. And that built that. I don't want it up here at the top. I want it down below. And tab. There we go. Notice I try to keep all of my code lined up together, you know, in the same direction. Okay? All right. We did that. I'm going to get my first date now. Get my first date is right here, and I want to do that. So, do you remember how to do that? Now, this time though, instead of sending it to the result label, I want to put it in my first date. So I'm going to say my first date equals. And now I'm going to do the same thing I did. I'm going to go and I'm going to get what I put in my calendar. So I'm going to say my calendar dot selected date. And now it's odd, but I have to say dot. And I'm going to say value, okay? And so now I'm just going to get the value, and I'm going to place it in my first date. Okay. And now I want to do the same thing for my other calendar. So I'm going to say public void my second calendar, and then remember selected dates changed. Okay, just like the one up above it. Now I'm going to say object, there it is, and sender and comma and selected and E. Selection changed events. Okay. And right now you might be panicking. Oh, there's that red line again. But remember, we haven't not put in these curly brackets yet. Okay. So now I'm going to say my, and I want my second date now equals my second calendar dot select, oh, sorry, dot selected dates dot value. All right, so we've got our first pick date and we've got our second pick date. Okay, so now that we've got those two items and we've got them in our code, now we can do stuff with it. So what I want to do is I'm going to come down here into my button click. So let me put this up here. Let's put some comments in. / get my second date. Okay, I could capitalize that. And here I'm going to I'm going to do my blackout. That's what I'm going to do. Okay. I'm going to call black out method. Learn that word, method. Method is a short series of codes. It does one thing, it does it well, and that's what we're looking. Hey there, programmers. Sorry for the break, sorry for the different shirt, but that's kind of what happens sometimes when you record. So let's keep going with what we were doing here. And we were saying we're going to put in here call blackout method. Okay, and so I put that in, and that's off my button click. Okay, and so the question is well, what are we going to do with that? For some reason, this is disconnected here just a little bit, and I'm going to put that right there. Okay. And so what I want to do is I want to say inside of here, I'm going to write set and blackout dates. Black out and dates. And I'm going to put in here my first date, if you remember correctly, and comma my and second date. Okay, and you'll notice that, Visual Studios is saying, wait a minute, what are you doing here? What are you trying to accomplish? And if you remember, I called this a method. I said, hey, call blackout method. And a method is a place where we can store some code and we can use it over and over and over again, okay? It's a very important term in computer programming. We do this all the time. And as we get more into objects and classes, we'll do a lot more of this method. So get used to this idea of methods. Get used to this word. As I've said before, it is something that we're going to do. Now notice it's given me a little red thing under here because it says, hey, there is no method called there is no method called set blackout dates. But if I click on the light bulb with the little red thing telling me, hey, this doesn't exist, notice one of the things it says. It says generate method main window, so that's in this set of code, and it's called set blackout dates, and that's actually exactly what I want it to do. So I'm going to do that. I just clicked on it, and notice then it created this little template down here that says private void set blackout dates. Now, I hate to get too involved in explaining all of this. Private means that it can't be called from someplace else. Then the void means it doesn't return any information, but it's going to do something for us. So that's okay. That's what we want it to do. And then it says, hey, date time, my first date. Hey, that's my first date up here. It's setting this for this method. So whatever information that I had in that my first date is now going to be put into the method called with the variable that I'm creating there called my first date. Do you see that right here? My first date is coming from my first date. And even though those are named the exact same thing, and I know that can be a little bit confusing, it's easier for us if they're named similar things when we're trying to figure out the flow of what's going on. Okay, so, and then it says date time, my second date, and that is related to my second date. We passed that information in here. That's why the computer put that into that template, so it makes it easier for us to remember what we are going to call these when we use them. Now notice here, it gave us some code that says throw new not implemented exception. And of course, if we ran this now, it would give us an error. And it would say, hey, you haven't done anything here with this. There's no code in this. So it would throw a not implemented, in other words, no code has been put in there, exception. Okay? So that kind of leads us to a whole conversation. We won't have it now, but you can basically create your own error codes and be able to use those in your program to tell you what's going on. Hey, it's doing this. Here's the error code. Right now, we can look at this and we can say that it doesn't have in it what we wanted it to do. Okay, so let's go down here and let's go ahead and complete this code. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say blackout up. Black out and calendar. Calendar, and I'm going to say dot, and I want black out dates. There it is. Dot. And we want add. So what we're doing is we're saying to this, hey, blackout calendar. I want to black out these dates. And here's the dates that I want to black out. And I'm going to say add, and I'm going to give it that. Okay. So here we go ahead and we put that in there. And now we're going to say in here, new calendar date range. Hey, it's right here. Look, it kind of, IntelliSense is guessing kind of at what we want to do. Now, we're going to make some parentheses here, and I'm going to say my first date and comma and my second date. Okay. And semicolon. All right. So what we did is we said a blackout calendar. Here's the blackout dates, and here's the dates that I want to add, okay? And so once it hits this, and we have entered a first date in the first calendar and a second date in the second calendar, and then hit the button, then the button's going to cause it to go here, and it's going to black out the dates in our third calendar, okay? So if we were to go, we'll hit our save button, and if we come over here, and let's say I pick, I'm going to pick a different date. I'm going to pick the 9th. Let's see if I can do that. Oh, no. Oh, I got to run my program first. Let's run the program. And as it boots up, it's about there. Just takes it a second. Okay. So it boots up and it says, hey, here's my two calendars. I'm going to pick a date. Let's pick the 9th. And then I'm going to pick the 20th here. And I'm going to say, push me. And there it has blocked out. You may have to push that button twice. But look what it's done. It's blocked out from the 9th to the 20th, which is exactly what we expected it to do. It's kind of what we wanted it to do. So hopefully this has made sense to you. I could guess there might be a challenge coming up to go along with this. So just going back here just real quick, because I know we called a blackout method. In other words, we called a set of code somewhere else and pulled it into to do something for our project. And we created a method. All new things that we've done before, have never done before. So hopefully this all makes some sense to you. If it doesn't, that's okay. Just remember, use that old term, rewind me, roll me back, and watch me do this again. And hopefully then it will start to make more and more sense. And the more we use it, the more it will make sense. And sometimes in computer programming, it takes doing it several times to understand the flow of how the programming works and what it starts to do. Okay? So let's go ahead and return to our slides. Our next video is CS ASP 018 Challenge Calendar Days Between. I look forward to seeing you there.